Hello and welcome everybody to episode 1 of the new Building a Miniature Layout series. In this series I will be covering everything from materials, methods, tools, and everything in between. This will be a DCC layout, but there's plenty to do before getting into that. The layout will be much more realistic than my previous one. I've done a lot of researching and thinking about this, so it's nice to finally get started. It will be very loosely based on a BNSF subdivision from here in Colorado. And with all that out of the way, let's get started. Alright, for the base of the layout, I'll be using a 1/2 inch piece of plywood and a 1 inch piece of foam, for a total of 1.5 inches thick. Here's the exact foam I bought from my local Home Depot. As for the height of the layout, it's going to be a little bit over 3 foot tall. And I'm using these plastic shelves that I already own for the foundation. The dimensions of this section of the layout is going to be 10 foot by 2.5 feet. Soon I will be adding more sections like this to expand to make a more larger layout. And as you can tell, it will be pretty big eventually. I went with 2.5 feet because at this height, I can still easily reach the back. So the first major step is to remove all cars, trains, and track to prepare for some gluing. And what you're looking at right now is sort of a rough draft of what I'm planning to do. These switches right here have already been tacked down, so it'll be easier to know where to put everything later on. To glue the foam to the plywood, I'll be using the classic old liquid nails. Should work just fine for a permanent gluing. One thing we must make sure is that the foam is flat and flush with the plywood. Now we can lift the foam up and start applying the glue in a nice even fashion. Once I have all the glue applied, I simply squeeze both together to spread the glue out even more. Now that it's glued, we can start getting going on the track plans. Here's what we already have down. This right here will be the main line, and it will turn into a small train yard that will serve a couple industries in the area. All switches will be these Atlas manual switches, with the exception of one. Maybe someday I will do an automatic switch, but for now these will be perfect. These bad boys run for about $20 a piece brand new, so they can add up pretty fast. Time to unbox the switch to see exactly what you get when you get this. All switches and track should include some rail joiners, obviously, and some screws that we won't be using. Now when it comes to this big bulky thing, you can simply take it off and put it away, unless you do want to use it. Here's some more info on the small curved track that the switch comes with. Like I said before, there is a different switch on the layout. It's longer and curves a little bit more gradually. Of course, you will need some rail joiners of some kind to put it all together, and these are the ones that I'm using. As for the nails to tack down the track, these are the go-tos in my opinion. Only cost about a couple bucks for a pack. I'll be using a lot of flex track for this project. They work really well for small and large adjustments, and they're about $7 a piece. I'll also be using regular straight pieces when needed. And of course, more switches. Now we can finally put in the main line and the yard pieces. Once everything is straight, I tack it all down. fit rail joiners on the flex track, you will have to snip off the last tie on each end. We continue the process all through the main track and the train yard, making sure everything is lined up perfectly. The left switch that we unboxed previously will go right here, so we could create a laddered yard. Here you can see what I'm kind of going for in general. I should mention that here I have a small 1/3 piece track that will also go on the other side as well. This will give a small distance between the train yard and the main line. And here I'll be putting a right switch to connect two of the train yard lines. Things are coming along very nicely, and we've made a lot of good progress so far. You can see here where I need to attach the yard lane to the switch. Now you can also see where the main line will go and continue to the other sections of the layout. It's not the biggest train yard, but with my amount of space, this will be perfect. Okay, now to focus on attaching the flex track to the switch, which will require some cutting. To do so, I'll be using a Dremel tool. This thing is very helpful in this hobby. I simply line it up and I mark it with a Sharpie to know how much I need to cut off. Then I get to cutting. Once I cut it, I use some fine grit sandpaper to smooth it out. And voila, we have a clean transition from the train yard line to the switch. If you are curious on this part of the layout, here are the exact pieces that I'm using in this spot. Now this will probably be for a line to go to another industry or something else. We'll have to figure it out. At this point, I'm very happy with how things are going, and it looks pretty dang good. Now for this section of the layout, I won't be using any cork bed, but when I do for the other sections of the layout, I'll be using this exact kind. To do some early testing of the track, I'll probably be using my old DC controller till I get my DCC one. I also got this bad boy in the mail today, the Static King by Woodland Scenics. This will make for some really realistic grass in the near future. So the last thing I'll be doing for this episode is painting the sides. To do that, I'll be using a chalk paint and a foam brush. This bottle is about $1 at my Dollar Tree, and it leaves a very clean matte finish to make the layout look a little bit more better. I just could not stand the teal and pink on the sides. Just like that, it looks so much better than it did previously. Okay, so we're coming to the end of the episode, and like I said, I'm pretty happy with how things are going. This does take a lot of thought, especially when it comes to filming it all. This will be a long series, so expect many more episodes to come. And as always, thank you very much for watching. Well, that is a wrap on episode 1 of the new build series that I'm doing. Like I said, there's plenty to come in the future, and if you want to stick around, please subscribe and please like the video to let me know that you guys do enjoy. And on that note, I will catch you guys in the next one.